Hello, I'm Ronald, and this is Iceland.
Well, hello again. I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong impression about this video. This is not about the nature of Iceland. If you ever come to Iceland, I can show you all these places, a lot more. This is not about it though. Today, I would like to discuss with you a different question. So the question I want to discuss here today is this: are Icelanders remnants of the house of Israel? What a question, even. How do I even get the idea of that Icelanders are even related to the house of Israel? Well, there is a reason, and I want to present it to you today, if you want to watch this. So, just a brief history of Iceland. Iceland really was discovered in the 1871. We talk about the first settler coming to Iceland, Ingolf Arnarson, and of course this was the Viking time. So we say a lot of times, Icelanders are Vikings, just like the Scandinavians. What Icelanders did, not quite then, but a little bit later, they did write books. They wrote on skin. And it was very expensive, actually, and we really don't know why. Why would they spend a lot of, let's say, money, a lot of effort, it was difficult enough just to survive in Iceland, but they actually made the effort of making books and writing on it. So we have a lot of written accounts of people, names, that came to Iceland, immigrated from Norway mostly, names and genealogy, people that came and where they went to, where they settled in Iceland, and all kinds of stories. Some of them we're not sure if they're true or not, but here we are, and we have all these stories, and we have these very old texts of the beginning time of Iceland. Now back to our modern history. I don't know if this is visible for you, the text. Is supposed to say Iceland's national emblem. Now, through the ages, Iceland had an interesting story, which I'm not going to tell here. But about 100 years ago, 1918 actually, Iceland became their own government under the Danish king, and there was like a covenant kind of a thing that in 25 years Iceland was supposed to get the fully independency from Denmark, which was in the middle of the World War II. That's a different story. But in this time, this is from 12th of February 1919, we were thinking about designing a flag and designing a national emblem. We wanted to have something of our own. And this is what they came up with. Here you can see the Icelandic flag. This is the Icelandic flag. But this whole picture here, this is the national emblem of Iceland, which are four creatures: a man, kind of a dragon thing. It's supposed to be a serpent, though, a flying serpent, an eagle, and an ox that are around. They're supposed to stand on Iceland right here, and they're the protectors of Iceland. And where did they? Why did they pick these figures? And this This is a content of an old story, one of the books I was showing you and telling you about. An almost forgotten story about the protectors of Iceland. This was an old story that had its beginning in Denmark. Let's see, I'm going to show you this picture here. The Danish king was insulted by some Icelanders in a poem, and he wanted to have some revenge. He wanted to attack Iceland and send some man there to investigate where is the weakest point of Iceland, where could they attack. And they actually traveled around Iceland and investigated the east. And they were surprised by a big serpent and many other like snakes and serpents that were coming towards the ship and towards the man, and you know, so it was impossible to attack Iceland from the east. So they sailed on and tried the north, where they found this big eagle and many other birds with them, flying towards the ship and you know, protecting Iceland, and you could not come here, go away. So they went on, and this just the same story repeated again and again. Here was the big bull, and that came shouting across, you know, this little bay here, so the Danish people, they went on, and on the south there was a big giant and a man's figure that came towards them. And so, anyway, I'm probably not telling the story correctly, but the Danish people, the ship, they went back to the Danish king with a report that Iceland could not be taken, could not be attacked. It had all kinds of creatures around the island protecting it. Now, the connection between this story, now this is, from this little story, they picked those four figures to be the protectors of Iceland to their national emblem. So today, the national emblem is constituted of these four, you know, creatures, the protectors. We call them landvættir in Icelandic. Now, I'm suggesting that there's a connection between these protectors of Iceland to the house of Israel. And here is the connection. As Israel was going with Moses through the desert, you know, the 40-year walk, they had the tabernacle, the tent of the temple, basically, and they put this tent, this tabernacle, in the middle, and 3 tribes on each side of the tabernacle to protect it. And so we can see the names of the 12 tribes of Israel all around the tabernacle where they put up their tents. You can read this in Numbers chapter 2. And each tribe had sort of like a main tribe, which is put in red here. And so, and each tribe had their own symbols. And now we come to the interesting part. So the head tribe of the west was Ephraim, which had a symbol of an ox. And Reuben in the south with a symbol of a man. And Judah in the east with a symbol of a lion. And in the north we had Dan with a symbol of an eagle. So, if we put these 2 pictures side by side, this is what we get. This is what we see. We see the man's figure in the south. We see the oxen in the west. We see the eagle in the north. And then, well, oops, there's supposed to be a lion in the east. We don't have lions in Iceland, so we put a snake, or what? So up to here, we might say, well, this is very interesting. We had 3 out of 4 correct. And it's quite amazing because we don't only see the 3 figures correctly, but we also see that, the directions are also correct. The man is in the south, the ox is in the west, and the eagle is in the north. It's only this one symbol that is kind of, in our ways, it doesn't quite fit. Okay, so far so good. I want to share a couple of scriptures. One of them is in Revelation, and where it talks about these four figures. And to the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf or like an ox, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. So again, we have these four original beasts, or you know, we don't call them man as a beast, but the four figures. And this picture is probably from a different scripture in Ezekiel, where it talks about four faces of the same creature, with the face of a man, probably in the front, and the face of a lion on the right side. So it's even pointing that direction of the lion. It's on the right side. And the fourth had the face of an ox on the left side, so right here. And the four also had the face of an eagle, so the only place left is in the back. So the back is the eagle. So we might wonder, where did this story come from? That in the old Iceland, in the Viking time, they had a story about three of these figures being protectors of something. Well, in the ancient time it was the holiness, but in the Viking time it was Iceland itself. How come this landed there? You might say, well, there might have been some Christian missionaries. Christianity was a big subject around the year 1000 in and around Iceland, and it's probably not that, because if it would have been a Christian thing, a Christian influence, they probably would have said there was a lion in the east, but there's a serpent. And let's see. This might be the key. The old Israel, I put here approximately 925 BC, was divided. Before that, we had three kings. We had King, who was the first? Was it David and Solomon? Oh no, it was Saul, David, and Solomon. And it was divided. So the northern territory, northern kingdom, was called Israel, just like the combined, Israel of old. So they kept calling this Israel, whereas the southern kingdom was called Judah and had Jerusalem as the capital city. So Israel, after the division, was 10 tribes, whereas the king of Judah was 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin. And from this time, we actually talk about this kingdom or these people as the Jews in Jerusalem. Now, both kingdoms eventually were taken into captivity from different people. The northern Israel, the northern kingdom, was taken into captivity by the Assyrians, and the southern kingdom, Judah, was taken into captivity to Babylon. And they eventually, it took many years, but they eventually came back and rebuilt the temple and the city, and they were allowed to come back to their homeland. Whereas the northern tribes, the 10 tribes, they actually never came back. And today we talk about the lost 10 tribes. So the only thing we know is that they went to the north. What that means, we don't really know. It could mean the northern part of Europe, could be the northeast. Actually, it could be the whole Europe, because Europe is north from this area. So we don't really know what north means. Okay. Well, if we have this picture from, if they kept their old traditions of this kind of a picture of this story, they would have excluded Judah, because Judah was no longer a part of their kingdom, because Judah was in the south now. Actually, Benjamin would have been out as well. But Judah was a main tribe in the east, so the lion was out. Now, if you were in amongst the 10 tribes, and you were to decide, if you want to take the symbol of the lion out, what kind of a symbol would you put in instead? Would you put one of those two tribes' symbols? If you choose one of the two, the other one might be insulted or something like that. So they had to be wise in choosing a new symbol. What kind of a symbol would you choose? Now, if you know the answer already, a serpent. Don't think of the Garden of Eden, not that kind of a serpent. It was a different kind of a serpent they chose. Does that look familiar? This is the serpent in a story of Moses, where the people of Moses, the Israel, were bitten by serpents, and they had to look up to this symbol right here to live. And the people who did not have even the faith to go there and look at this symbol, which was symbolizing Christ, would perish. So what I'm saying, I'm just suggesting that this symbol here might have been important enough for all of the house of Israel to be a substitute symbol of the East. So instead of Judah, we might have, instead of a lion, we might have the serpent in the east. And the comparison picture may look like this now. Now this is where you're supposed to say, wow, we have now the eagle in the north, we have the ox in the west, we have the man in the south, and we have a serpent in the east. Now I'm going to leave you now with this big question mark. I'm pondering about the connection between Iceland and the house of Israel. Is this possible that Iceland really has a connection to the house of Israel? Are Icelanders remnants of the house of Israel? Now this is a question that is on my mind, at least. And if so, it might even have greater and significant consequences for the near future.